All of the boys, they wanna come to my yard. Touch up on my body cause they know I'm hot. All of the boys, they wanna come to my yard. Kiss up on my body.
All right, we're back.
We're back with another video. Doo-dah, doo-dah.
And another audio too.
Oh, the doo-dah.
oh, that was cute. Okay, hey y'all, we back. Like we never left. Yes, today's topic. First off, how are we doing today, guys? I hope everyone's having a good day. I hope you had your vegetables, you drank some water, you let go of that toxic person in your life. You know,
still wearing your mask.
Yes, please. I don't understand what is going on with these states trying to lift these mask mandates,
Exactly.
but don't fall for it. You'll be in the hospital on a ventilator. Do not fall for it. Like, that is ridiculous.
I wasn't going to say all that. I was just going to say you might get sick, but...
Listen. Sometimes scare tactics have to be used for people to understand. But, no, I just hope y'all are doing well. I hope peace and blessings are reigning in your life. Yeah, good vibes, good energy. Today's topic is, can black people be racist? Now, this topic is... I don't know who, did you pitch this or did I pitch this?
You pitched it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, this is a topic that's kind of near and dear to my heart, but not like that, if that makes sense. Like, it's just something that I've had this conversation multiple times before. Literally, I'm probably the first person that'll be like, no, black people cannot be racist. But I said all of that to say, I usually say that to say, black people can't be racist because when you look up the definition of racism, which... Probably should have looked it up before we started.
I don't have. Just keep going.
Yeah.
Hey Siri.
But when you look up like the
What's
definition
of racism?
Of racism, it usually aligns with like the person.
Racism means prejudice, discrimination, or antagonism directed against someone of a different race based on the belief that one's own race is superior.
Okay. Thank you, Siri. Oh wait, it's more.
No, I'm just reading myself because she be going too fast sometimes.
I'm hollering.
Where you going?
So the dictionary definition that I have always been taught is that you usually the group is the majority in this sense, and they have some form of political worldwide influence, the power to oppress, whether systematically, institutionally, whatever. And I just feel like because of the state of where we are, black people cannot be racist. But I pose this question to you because I would like to know, what do you think?
So I've never had this conversation before, just, throwing it out there. But I think we can, but not to the extent, like you said, like, we're still the minority. We're still oppressed ourselves. But I think that we still can have a racist mindset sometimes. In the way that, like how Siri just said, in the terms of being discriminative towards specific groups because of, let's say previous experiences or working with someone, that does play a role in how people, sort of act towards people of other races. So I don't think like we're to the velocity of like white supremacists or anything like that. No, but I feel like sometimes like people can have poor experiences or, just previous interactions with people of other race, and that will influence how they react to them. So I feel like we can to an extent.
Okay. So I would say to that, black people can definitely be prejudiced. We can definitely be biased. We can at times perpetuate stereotypes with ignorance. I would 100% agree with that.
Yeah.
But I said what I said. No, I'm still sticking with, like, we cannot be racist. And what you said, like, experiences, like, that we've had, from what I've seen and what I've experienced in my own life, usually when black people make ignorant statements or they attack you based on your race, the situations that I've seen, it's usually because you have done something or said something that feeds into the backlash that we experience on a regular basis. So it's like you made a comment about how they speak or how they, like feeding into a stereotype or just like I don't feel safe around you because I know and my father taught me that black people are blah blah blah. Like just kind of going along those lines, and then that's when I usually see the claws come out and things go left. I saw this post on Tumblr one time, sorry y'all, and it was like, why do black people got beef with every race? Like, why is it that black people can't get along with everybody? And then the person on the bottom of the post replied, and it's like, because there's a way to say the N-word in every single language. And like when I saw that, when I tell you like my whole mind was kind of like blown. This was like teenage Shania, and I'm sitting there and I'm just like, oh my god, they're absolutely right. That is so wild. Like there is an equivalent for that word in every single language, and if there's an equivalent for that word in every single language, there is some sort of stereotype, twisted attitude or mindset that goes along with it.
Yeah.
So for me, I don't always think that it's coming from a place of prejudice, bias, or whatever, like racism. I think it's just an initial way to react, to kind of like shoot back at you what you're shooting back, what you shot at me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it varies because we're talking about people of other races, but I've often seen people of black ethnicities attack each other, and it's like you both literally look the same, but your cultures are different. So I guess you can say it stems from a place of ignorance sometimes, of us not understanding and respecting each other's cultures, because I know sometimes like people within my family, you know, will say certain things, and I have friends from, you know, those specific black ethnicities, and I'm like, well, that's not even true and stuff like that. So that's why I say we can't be racist, because it comes from, you know, our own ignorance sometimes and just not wanting to be knowledgeable. Like I know my father has said certain things sometimes, and I'm like, you do know that we have Caribbean people in the family, right? You do know that we got some. Okay, so it's things like that that allow me to say, that makes me say that black people can be racist, because there's certain things that we say about ourselves that we jokingly say, like, oh, you know, black people, we always like fried chicken, or black people like watermelon. It's like, I hate watermelon and I don't even eat chicken. So what are you talking about? So it's like, it's little things like that, like, and I mean, I guess you can say it's not necessarily being racist, but again, it goes back to being ignorant and then us feeding into those own stereotypes that have been placed on us, I guess you can say. But I think, you know, there comes to a certain point, like same thing with us, where you sat there and said, you know, we're not going to take it anymore. I'm not going to feed into that. And, you know, we as black people have to do the same thing, you know, as an entity.
But the question I would like to pose to you now is, because I hear this a lot, when you are pro-black, that means you're anti-white. Which I don't agree with that at all, but I want to know your thoughts on that.
I wouldn't say I'm anti-white either, because so when I first moved to our neighborhood, my very first friends were the people who live across the street from me, and they are Caucasian. So, you know, I've never really had an outwardly extravagant or like a super poor situation where it's really allowed me to sit there and say, like, you know, anti-white and stuff like that, because the same thing, you know, you have poor interactions with people that look like you all the time, but that doesn't mean I'm about to stop being pro-black. So I think for me, you know, sometimes I do have those moments where I have to draw back and understand that not everyone is the same. So I wouldn't say I'm anti-white, because I feel like that just goes against everything of being a multicultural person, because you have to understand that every culture, again, is different. No, and even one person within the same culture is not exactly the same. So I wouldn't say I'm anti-white. I definitely just think I'm pro-black, because we've been in the shadows for so long. We haven't been given, again, the credit that we deserve for a lot of the things that we've done. And a lot of us don't even know how deep our lineage and our history truly is. So I'm really just big on people understanding, you know, who they are, you know, within their culture, within their race, ethnicity, as themselves again. But, you know, I wouldn't say I'm anti-white at all. I'm just happy to be black, and I wouldn't want to be anything else.
Statement, when people say that, it grinds my gears, because it's like, for so long, they have like brainwashed people into believing that, you know, black is bad in a way. Like, even when you look up the word black in the dictionary, it evil, impure, you know, just like all of these dark, scary, like all of these negative
things,
denotations that come with it. And I'm just like, when we say that we're pro-black, it's not that we're like dismissing anyone else or that we're gonna go pick up our tiki torches and go march, you know, in the middle of the night. That's not what we're doing, unlike some people. But what we're saying is that we find a beauty. There's such a beautiful, like, being black is an experience like no other. Like, we really are. It's live over here. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, I've only been black. I've never been anything else. And from my experience, like, 10 out of 10. Like, I highly recommend. I can't speak for everybody else, but like you said, I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. We are such a rich people with such a rich ancestry, rich history. And like, when we try to like explore that and like celebrate that, people automatically assume that we're being racist and that we're like trying to like disrespect their culture or their ideas. Right. There are people to this day who are upset because we have Black History Month. Our little 28-day month in which we get to celebrate ourselves, sometimes 29 in a leap year. But there are so many different, like, there's Hispanic Heritage Month. There's Asian American History Month. Forgive me if I said that wrong.
Pacific Islander.
Yeah, there are so many different months, but everybody wants to like jump on us when it's our month. Like, oh, that's racist. We don't have a. Somebody came over and said, we don't have a white entertainment television network, so why do you get a black entertainment television network?
Because everything is white on TV.
I'm like, do you realize again, going back to creating our own spaces and having to celebrate ourselves because we were not given seats at the table? Like, my good sis Solange said it very, very well. Create your own awards. Create your own ceremonies. Go out and build each other up. Make sure that your table is big enough for everybody so that you don't have to go and fight to get a seat at their table because you already have a seat at your own table. So for me, when people say that, I just be looking at them like, you've got to be like stupid. Like, I don't really understand where you're coming from with this. I appreciate everything there is about my experience, whether it comes with the struggles and the stripes of racism, or it's me looking good and yellow and stunting on all of y'all. Like, I appreciate everything that comes with the experience of being a Black person and a Black woman. Like, I love it. And I think it's really sad that when you sit there and you celebrate it, if I'm under your picture, like, yes to the box braids, yes to the melanin, yes to this.
And they want to come and be like, yes, and make fun of it, like, no.
Or, like, my favorite part is when you have, and I've seen it with Black men a lot, it'll be like a Black man will get on and he'll, you know, be like, Black women are beautiful. And then someone from the Boondocks will extend their long neck into the conversation to say, all women are beautiful. No, girl.
He just putting some spotlight on us.
Like, relax yourself. Why can't we have a minute to like celebrate and bask in our beauty and our creativeness and whatever the heck he's trying to preach and speak on? Like, I don't know. People get so offended and so upset when we take pride in ourselves. You can be pro-Black and not be anti-white.
Yeah.
If you go out of your way to make white people feel bad or like attack white people, that's your business, but do not automatically put that with the pro-Black movement.
No, so your very first point of, you know, people associating the word Black with negative connotations, like, it just makes you think of like a black cat is bad luck, or, you know, like crows because they're Black. Like, if crows were white, would you still think they were scary or something like that? Or is it just because they're nature and they tend to pick on things? Like, are you just associating with their features, or is it specifically because it's Black? So, I mean, I've definitely been in different spaces where Black women are, you know, coming together because we're talking about wellness, or we're talking about finance, or we're talking about whatever, and it's virtual now because of COVID, and someone will just come into the space and try to just disrupt it. And it's happened so many times now that I'm really saying that. Like, I can clearly think of like 3 things off the top of my head. Like, one person was doing an interview with a celebrity and someone just came in and, you know, just started saying all this nonsense, and we're like, well, if you don't agree with what's happening in this space, with a space that wasn't even, you know, directed towards you. Like, everyone, if you're a marketer, you understand this, everything has a target audience. And it's not to sit there and, exclude people, but it's to focus on the people who you know really need to receive this message, and the people who you know will, buy your product or do whatever. And this is no different case than Black women creating those spaces for us to sit there and talk about finance, because finance is not something that's always talked about in the Black community. Finance is something that a lot of Black people struggle with, and wellness and doing interviews and just perfecting your craft. And for people to sit there and come in and just, try to add their 2 cents, it's just like, why do you not understand why we get upset then? Then if we sit there and say something, or we try to, first, if we try to handle it professionally, we get ignored. Second, if we all try to gang together and handle it professionally again, now we're ganging up on that person. But then when we come out of character and really start handling, she's an angry Black woman and they're just rude and that's just how their nature is. No, that is not how our nature is. It's never how our nature was, but we're constantly put to a test that others aren't put to, that we constantly have to come out of character. I remember I was having a conversation with my mother and my godmother the other day, and me and my godmother were like, Mom, how are you always nice? Because if you know my mom. My mom is very nice. Like, she very rarely gets out of character where she's not being considerate of others or not thinking of, her own reputation or how she wants to carry herself. So we're like, how are you nice all the time? And I think of her sometimes, and there's this video on Instagram, and it's a Black couple, and it's like when someone tries to attack your nice husband and the wife comes around, and I'm like, that is my mom sitting there being nice, and that's me coming around like, you're not going to disrespect my mother like that. So it's just like, we have people out there who, again, have normalized it, got accustomed to it, learned how to work around it. And then we have those of us who are like, we ain't tolerating this. But it's like, we had to get to a certain point to be there. And it's just like, what can we do? Like, what do you want us to do? Honestly, what do you want us to do? Do you want us to stop? Because we're not going to stop. I don't think that it would be beneficial for us as Black people to stop and sit here and say, you know what, we're not going to have Black Lives Matter. We're not going to have pro-Black. We're not going to have Black Girls Lead. We're not going to do all these Black girl magic, and we're not going to do that anymore, because then it's like everything that we've worked so hard for ourselves is just going to crumble. And it's like, for what? For y'all, because y'all don't agree, because y'all don't understand, because y'all will really never understand, because you're not Black. It's just like, what do you want to get out of this? And it's almost like you're just the person looking stupid in this equation, not us, because we are defending a space that we've created and worked so hard to create. You're just looking like Boo Boo the Clown, and you just need to exit left.
Is that Boo Boo the Fool's brother?
Boo Boo the Clown, Boo Boo the Fool, all of them. The Boo Boos. Get out.
I'm sorry, because when you said that, I automatically thought of that little thing where it's like, I could tell you who I'm not. But no, 100%. It's like, you try to handle it in a professional manner. You see someone doing something and you're just like, hey, like, we would appreciate it if you did not want to be here, if you don't want to partake, if you're not being conducive to the environment, we ask that you leave. And then, you might get somebody else involved, and they're like, hi, we as a unit would ask that you please leave this space because it is a safe space for us.
Yeah.
Yada, yada, yada. And then, once you turn into, I said get the F out,
right,
then it's like, oh my God, look at how they act. It was not even that serious. But when I asked you nicely, when I warned you twice, you don't keep poking the bear.
Right.
I think what a lot of people, and I'll say it again, what a lot of people fail to realize is that we are very sensitive and protective of what we are doing and what we have created. It did not happen overnight. It took years, centuries of us being able to piece it together. And my favorite thing for people to throw is reverse racism. I'll be sitting there and we'll be in conversation, and it'll be usually me and a Black person minding our business. But I guess we might be talking a little too loud for their liking.
Oh, yeah.
And they'll like jump into it, and it's just like, well, that's reverse racism. I'm gonna need you to get away from me because I don't believe in that. So I rebuke you in the name of Jesus. Thank you. Like, I I'm not about to sit here and fight with you. That's not a thing. Reverse racism doesn't exist. I don't know if it exists to you, and I'm sorry if I'm offending you. I'm not, but, being politically correct, I'm sorry if my words are hurting your feelings. I don't believe in reverse racism. I think that's one of the stupidest things that people have come up with, and it blows my mind that Black people can't just exist peacefully and just mind our business without having to, constantly be at your neck for you to relax.
I don't know. I like you said, I think it just goes back to what we talked about in previous conversations and the importance of Black people having our own spaces to really just be ourselves, because I don't even know how to put it into words of how frustrating it can be when you're just sitting there enjoying yourself and then someone just enters your space. It is, and it's rightfully our space. Like, whether we sitting at a public table for the 2 hours that we're there, whether we're at the park, whether we're, again, in virtual chat rooms, whether we're doing whatever, it's just rightfully our space, whether it's for a temporary amount of time or a longer duration. It's just like, literally, like you said, someone would just come up and be like, we don't do that to y'all. Like, honestly, imagine a group of let's just say Caucasian people, and they're sitting there, and then a person of color just comes up, ha ha ha. Y'all are all gonna look at them like they're crazy, unless y'all just plastered out of your mind, because it's just like, what are you doing? And it's the same way with us, because, like you said, it is so sensitive for us, especially right now, because we're fighting for so much.
Okay, sorry. Technical difficulties, y'all. But we back. And we in this thing we're in here like swimwear. There you go. That's what I was trying to say. Okay, touching on what you said with, just supporting one another. I feel like when people make the statement that anti-Black is pro-white, I really feel like they're just trying to feed into the self-hate and the division that already exists within our community. We are tackling every single day different ways that we are fighting. We just spoke about this earlier. Like, we're a bunch of bickering cousins. And when we do decide to support one another, they'd rather see us, divide and conquer. Like, that's just what it is. It's not difficult. They've done it for quite some time. Look, we have colorism. We have the battered relationship between Black men and Black women. Like, all of the effects of what they've done in the past still ring true to today. Willie Lynch did an amazing job, and I'm being sarcastic here when I say amazing, but he did an amazing job of really convincing us that the lighter you are, the better you are. The darker you are, the worse you are. And for me, when we sit and we try to organize and we sit and we try to, support her bakery. Sasha done put her hard work, time, effort, money into this bakery, and she would like to make money in return. For you to sit there and say, well, that's not right, that's racist of you to only support Black-owned businesses. I take the month of February, I take very seriously. Not dead bread, my boy. When I tell you I will only support Black businesses if I can help it, if I find out that you are making soaps and you are a Black man or woman, guess what? We're not going to go and buy our usual soap. This month, we're going to try out your soap and pray to God that it works, because if it ain't getting the job done, we're going to have to leave your soap behind. But literally, I only shop with Black brands when it comes to clothing. I support Black-owned restaurants. I go out of my way, and I do this throughout the year, but February, I make sure my Black dollars are going into Black businesses, because at the end of the day, if we don't support each other, who else will?
I think it's important that we recognize the hand that we play in the situation on each end. Like you said, because it's very easy to sit there and point the finger and say, you're doing this, you're doing that, but it's like you said, they're reacting in a certain way for a reason, know. So I'm saying, regardless of who it is, it's just important for us to understand, okay, you can't be, anti this, anti that, but then you're partaking in anti something in a different way, if that makes sense. So I think, again, it's just important for us to, just recognize that nothing is perfect. No one is perfect. We're going to have our faults. We're going to sit here and say, we're pro one thing and all this other stuff. And then we might reflect and say, oh, man, like, I'm really am, like, not handle this in the best situation. Let me make that change. Or let me just acknowledge that, I do this and I apologize for that. And you continue to do it or you make the change. Whatever, is your cup of tea. I also think it's important for people to expand outside of their race and have friends outside of their race, so they have those comfortable spaces with those people to have those type of conversations. Because there are plenty of people out there who just are purely ignorant because they don't have the knowledge and they naturally may not want to read about it, but they just have those questions. And I know we say, we're not the source of your questions, you're not supposed to come to me, I don't have the answers. But what if they genuinely have a question and they just feel comfortable coming to you? I don't see anything wrong with that. I'm not about to sit here and answer your questions about slavery and all the other things that you can easily Google. I'm not doing that. But if it's like, questions about hair and like why we do certain things, or, just to understand, because genuinely I don't understand everything about every other culture. I don't understand everything about Caucasian culture, about Hispanic culture, about Asian culture, et cetera, et cetera. I don't understand everything. So naturally, if I don't have someone, I know I would just Google it. But if I have a close friend that I trust and we can have those type of conversations in those type of spaces, I'm going to ask it. And I'm going to say, I don't want to come off crazy. I don't want to come off, offensive. But I genuinely want to understand because you're my friend and I know that this is an issue, for maybe you or me, this is an issue that's going on right now and I genuinely just want to understand. Or if it's just a stereotype and I just want to understand, like, this is for real, yo, like, do y'all really do this? And then having that conversation where it gets a bit more deeper so I can understand. For me, it's about how you approach different situations. Because if you come at me crazy and it's all serious straight away and I have no idea, I have no context of where this is coming from, I'm going to be like, what's going on? But if you come to me, you kind of explain like, okay, like this is what's going on. I'm just curious, I wasn't sure and I feel comfortable coming to you. Like if someone feels comfortable coming to you, take that as a compliment, because everyone doesn't feel comfortable opening up to everyone. Everyone doesn't feel comfortable with every single person that they meet. If they feel like you're a stranger and y'all supposed to be friends, they're never going to open up to you and y'all might as well not be friends. But I feel like genuinely all my friends I have because I also don't use the word friend loosely either. So I feel like all of my friends, we have some sort of comfortability level where they may come to me about certain things. And I genuinely respect that, and I appreciate that. So I think it's very important that we, again, expand our minds, expand our friend group so we can have these type of conversations. Because if we all continue to gang up as a race and never, try to collaborate and never really try to expand again, then how will we ever really dismantle a lot of our problems? Because it's going to constantly be, not a war, but constantly be that conflict. If we never sit here again and try to come to some, common ground and understand what's going on. Granted, there are going to be some people who just don't agree, and that's a part of life. But there are going to be some people who genuinely like, all right, like, cool, like, finally, some people who agree. So I think it's just very important that we have, again, those type of spaces where we as Black people can be ourselves, but we can also mingle with other people and learn and grow and blah, 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 blah.
I think you hit it right on the head. I feel like you do have to learn and you do have to take the time out to hold yourself accountable for the things that you say. Like I said in the beginning, the girl who made the comment about her eyes, you shouldn't have said that. And you wouldn't have brought on that response from her. Even if you feel like your remark wasn't as serious as her remark. I feel like it's just about knowing, okay, this affected you this way. I understand, and now I will do better, or I'm not changing, it is what it is, and I know not to mess with you like that.
Yeah.
Like, that is definitely something that people have to get a grip and a grasp on, like, just understanding. Some people just aren't for you. Some people will never take your plight seriously, but it's not their plight. So
exactly.
And just like you said, understanding one another better. I hate when people say this when they're like, "We're all just one race, the human race."
We're not, honestly.
No, we're not this melting pot that they tried to make us out to be. Unfortunately, the social construct that you keep trying to reference, unfortunately, they made that a social construct. We didn't ask for this. So when you keep trying to tell us, like, just forget all of our differences, no, like, that's, our differences are what make us unique. And when we learn about each other's differences, and when, like you said, you feel comfortable going to that friend and saying, is this really how it is? Is this really what you do? Because curiosity is what really keeps us going as human beings. If we weren't curious, we would be stagnant. We want to know, we want to understand why. For some people, it's just, I'm curious. For some people, it's like, I've experienced this and I don't know why, and I want to know, what is the source of why you treat me this way. So at the end of the day, we're all human, as we talked about last podcast episode, and we all have a certain way of ticking. And at the end of the day, there is that line where we're kind of divided in our own little cliques, groups, but we also need to learn how to coexist with one another, because, I mean, at the end of the day, I'd rather you be cordial with me than for us to hate each other. And I feel like you may feel the same way, not you specifically, but
I haven't had the conversation on can black people be racist, but the conversations I have had have been based around, you know, again, finding some sort of common ground so everyone can be cordial to the very least, but also, you know, having some sort of respect. I remember I was at work when I was an undergrad, and I was working at a restaurant at the time, and it was a fairly diverse working staff. So we had some people who were Italian, some people who were Latin American, some people who were black, some people who were Greek. Like, we had a fairly diverse staff. And I remember one day it was lunch and we were all just sitting there talking, and you know, the guy who was Italian was like, if everyone would just have some level of respect for each other, so many problems in the world would be solved, because so many problems result from us having differences and not understanding and respecting those differences. Like that's just like, well, because you're Arabic and I don't understand your language, that does not mean that you're a terrorist. That does not mean that you're about to attack someone. That does not mean that, you know, you're extremist. That doesn't mean any of that. That's just a part of your specific culture, and you have to respect it. Like, God did not create all these different things for us to sit here and, you know, work in strife and be so, you know, ignorant and rude towards each other. That's not what he intended at all. Like, how do you sit here and say all these different languages came about for us all to be one person? We are definitely not all the same person. We're not meant to be the same person, because if everyone was the same, like you said, it would be very stagnant, and it would just be a boring behind world. And I guess it would still be beautiful, I don't know, but each culture plays a specific role within this world. You know, we wouldn't have certain foods, we wouldn't have certain music, we wouldn't have certain people. You know, it's just very important that we have, again, that diversity, but we have that level of respect that comes with it. And that's, again, something that we need if we want to move forward, not only just as black people, but, you know, universally.
I don't know. I hope that as we get older and we all start having our kids, that we can kind of guide them down the proper path.
Bro.
And if you have to ignore grandma and grandpa and their little ignorant remarks, do so, because no, you're not going to taint my child and have them out here like feeling ethnocentric, or where we're not doing that. And then we're not going to have you coming over here trying to belittle my child because of what your grandpa taught you. Like, it's just, that's not the vibes we on.
Listen, I'm gonna say this right now. My child will be peaceful. They will love, you know, everyone. I want them to feel comfortable bringing, you know, whatever race home, interacting with whomever, especially, you know, if they get along, you know, there's no arguments, there's no, like, real conflicts. I'm okay with that. Like, they can marry, do whatever. But let your child call my child any racial slurs, I'm going to give them the permission to punch it right in the face. And I do not condone violence. I'm not one to go straight towards violence. I play around like, oh, I'll beat you up, da-da-da. But naturally, I'm not a confrontational person like that. Yeah, I'm really not that much of a confrontational person like that. No, because I'm going to stand my ground, especially for stuff that I believe in, but I'm also going to respect how you feel, but I'm going to make my point known just the way you're going to make your point known. But what you're not about to do is sit here and disrespect my pick-me. You're not. Because as soon as he come home and say, Mommy, they call me the N-word, I'm going to say, go to school tomorrow and punch him in the face. You heard Barack Obama when he gave that recent story where one of his Caucasian colleagues called him a coon and he had to punch him in the nose. He said, "Don't you ever call me a coon. It's listen, the same thing gonna happen. Be like, Miss whoever, so and so." I answer the phone. "Yes, how are you doing today?" "So and so punched little Johnny or little Susie in the face, or Rebecca or John or whoever. I don't care." "Oh, why did he do it?" I think he called him. Oh, put him on the phone. "My boy, I told you, you got him, didn't you?" Bro,
Good job.
Don't even worry about it. You got detention. Don't worry. We gonna go to dinner afterwards, okay? And then I'm gonna give him the phone. I'm like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. You know, I had to talk with him. He won't do it again." Meanwhile, he already know what's up. So
I'm
just throwing it out there, letting you know, because it was never tolerated when I was growing up, and it ain't about to start today. Okay.
Listen, I'm 100% about protecting yours and standing your ground, and just you only tolerate what you'll tolerate, if that makes sense. So I don't see no problem with that, and I feel like a lot of people fail or forget that. Like, if you keep poking the bear, or you make a statement or say something wild out of pocket, you cannot control how that person is going to react. It doesn't matter what color you are.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of people pick the word racism and they pin it just on that one specific group that happens to be in the majority.
Yeah.
But no, honestly, it can come from just about anybody. It can come from just about anybody with the silly things that they say, or how you take it in. Because again, I'm responsible for what I say, not how you interpret it. So yeah, 100%. If you want to go around using racial slurs, you better be able to fight. I pray to God that you got some sort of skill. Either you better be quick with your tongue or quick with your hands, because
both.
You inviting that into your life. Nobody told you to use the word.
That's
Nobody
true.
told you to go out there acting like you ain't had no common sense.
Listen, bro. And on that note, would you say that this is a sipper or a shot? Because I think it's one of them days I'm gonna have to do a half and half.
LOL.
We gonna have to do a little mixture, a little ice.
LOL. Not some ice. I don't know. I honestly feel like this was a sipper. This was pretty smooth for me. I don't know. I guess it's because I've had this conversation before and I'm so comfortable in where I stand.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like there's no change in my mind on it. I'm gonna hear you out, but there's no change in my mind on it.
Respectfully, yeah.
There you go, respectfully. And yeah, I mean, it is what it is. Like I said, be prepared, whatever you do in this life, for a reaction.
Right. I mean,
and that's that.
Yeah. No, I think between us, it's a sipper. But like when you go out there and really start to have those conversations, you hear other people's perspective, and it's like, you still, you have so many different nationalities in this world that it's going to be really hard for us all to, come to, again, that sort of comfortability with talking about race, because again, it's been so controversial for so long that it's hard to get to that place of comfortability. But I feel like me as a black woman, and again, being pro-black, I'm completely comfortable in that. Like, again, we're not anti anything, but it's just, I'm 100% for, why would I not be for myself? Like, I'm dead black. Like, we're dead behind black. Why would I not be for the people who look like me, for my mother, for my father, for my cousins, for my friends, like for my aunts, uncles, whoever else, probably for my future husband too? Like, why would I not? It's just like, So that's why I say it's a half and half.
I mean, questions we need answers to, I guess, with what you just posed. But yeah, I mean, again, it does definitely depend on who you have this conversation with. I'm gonna sip my champagne off in the corner, because I'm not. Again, I ain't trying to step on nobody's toes, but I feel like where we're coming to as a society, it's kind of like you're either okay with it or you're not, or well, I mean, I guess you could squeeze by in the middle, but majorities are you're okay with it or you're not, and I don't see the need to attack you for how you feel, because I don't want you to attack me for how I feel.
Right.
But we could definitely. I'll root for you while you taking your shot and sipping your champagne.
That's it. That's where we're gonna leave it right there. Boop.
Bye. All right. Bye.